I think sometimes technical people get the short end of the stick, as if there's some kind of priority or emphasis put on the creative side, and it's more important to be a creative than a technician. Well, one bit of advice or a word of caution I would throw out there is that there's a lot of value in being a technician and fully understanding the technical intricacies of the tools that you're working with, specifically video cameras, but with lights, with audio equipment, with pretty much anything. The tools that we work with are very complex, and it's not like 200 years ago where everything was mechanical and if something broke, it was pretty easy to fix. Nowadays, it can be very difficult to fix things, and that's why it's so valuable to be a technician and to understand those intricacies, because what happens all the time is problems come up. It's just the way it is. Problems will happen behind the scenes, on set, in post-production. Problems happen all the time. Whatever could happen or whatever may happen is likely to happen. So you have to be prepared for that to happen. And it's going to be kind of unfortunate if you're only the creative side and you don't have any technical understanding of what you're working with or how to fix it. Now, granted, you can't be an expert at everything. There are often times where you'll need to send a camera in for repair, or you'll have to take something into the shop to get fixed. But the more technical you can be with your understanding, the better you can be at solving those problems when they come up. I mean, a great example is of a car mechanic, right? I own my own car, but I don't know hardly anything about it. So if something goes wrong, if there's a problem, I've got to take it into the shop. I've got to pay another guy. And, that's the world we live in. There's a lot of people who are like that. But I'm also not using my vehicle to produce video content or to do my job every single day. Yeah, I use it to get from A to B, but I'm not a race car driver, and I'm not a delivery man. I'm not an Uber driver. Nothing about my car and it functioning really has that much of an impact on the work that I'm doing. However, the camera that I have, or the audio equipment I have, or the lights that I have, if something goes wrong with them on set, I can't just pause, time out, and then send it to Panasonic to get it fixed and get it back in 2 weeks. That's not an option. So you have to understand almost every component of the devices that you're working with, the computers that you're working with, because when things go wrong, oftentimes there isn't time for it to be fixed. And sometimes it will be the case that it's an unfixable situation. It's totally broken. There's nothing that can be done. But other times it might be just a little setting in the menu that got tweaked. This happens all the time with rental equipment. So frequently I'll rent cameras for different shoots. Different projects need different tools, so different cameras fit the job. Now, when you get cameras from rental, oftentimes they'll do a pretty good job of kind of resetting everything to zero and kind of neutralizing everything back out in case someone totally messed it up. But sometimes that doesn't happen. So you might get a camera that has the settings from some other project, some other person who thought that was what they wanted, and you have to be able to know how to take what they did and transform it into what you want. And if you just pick up the camera and start shooting, you're certainly probably in the wrong resolution, probably in the wrong frame rate. You might be even in the wrong country, the region of the camera, if you can change that on the camera. There's so many different things in camera menus that you have to go through all of them one by one, understand what each one of them is, and then switch it how you want. And that can be a time-consuming task. It can be not fun or glamorous. But if you don't do that and then you're filming and you don't understand why the image is too dark or too bright or really noisy, if you don't understand, you see all these problems, you won't know how to fix it because you don't have that technical understanding. And that's why it's so important to be as good of a technician as you can be. Yes, the creative side is very, very important. Absolutely. But if you're doing the actual hands-on creation, which a lot of us are, maybe you're independent, you work with smaller crews, or even if you work on bigger crews and you're the guy who's in charge of the camera or the lights or the audio, you have to know how to fix the problems when they come up, because everyone's kind of relying on you to fix that problem. The show must go on. And if the camera isn't able to record, or the lights can't get turned on, or the audio isn't getting signal, that's your problem to figure out. And if you go and say, well, I wasn't expecting to fix a problem today, that's not a good excuse. You have to know as much as humanly possible in order to fix or solve those problems. And like I said, they might be really small, simple things. it happens over and over and over again. It could be as simple as like, oh, the lens cap is on, right? Why is the image so dark? Well, take the lens cap off and you'll figure it out. But, imagine handing a camera to some total novice or just a stranger on the street and they're looking at it like, why is it dark? It might take them a second to remember that, oh, there might be a lens cap on here. Most people are used to shooting with their iPhones now that don't have lens caps. So that's a silly example, but it kind of paints the picture of what I'm trying to get at is every piece of that device you have to know, every bit of the software, the firmware, how it functions, how you set the different settings, all of those things you need to know and understand so that when those problems come up, because they will absolutely come up. I've talked about problem solving in other videos, and that's, I think, is one of the true marks of a professional, is somebody who can just solve problems that are thrown at them regularly. Every day there's going to be new problems, and if you can solve them, I think that makes you a professional at whatever it is, whatever problems that you're solving. But being prepared, being equipped to handle them is a lot better than just kind of coasting by and taking the camera rental that someone shipped to you and just saying, oh yeah, looks good, it's ready to go. And then all of a sudden you've caused so many more problems down the line. Every step along the way, know how to solve the problems that come up, and that will serve you very, very well.